Hi guys. Have you ever wondered why the West can't seem to leave Russia alone? Putin specifically. Have you ever wondered why it almost seems like it is one man against the rest of the world? And he is quite standing strong if you ask me. He's not doing very badly, yeah. But have you ever wondered why the West keeps going to extreme lengths, extreme measures to probably put him away or maybe put a leash on him to some extent? Have you? Well, the man Putin strikes me like a very interesting man. I mean, someone that will have United States global power to her feet, and then the rest of the world. I think that he's no ordinary man, and if you ask me, he deserves to be studied, and that is why we are here. Alright, so if you're meeting me for the first time, my name is Udoka Agbogoro, aka Udala Talks, and I am an international relations enthusiast and realist. Do not forget that. Yeah. And today's video we'll just be discussing the current happening, of course, US, Ukraine, Russia, the West. Yeah, because it seems to be what is currently plaguing the world right now. So we're gonna be looking at it from the Russian perspective, like I have always done. Yeah, and it is because the West don't seem to tell us enough about the Russian perspective. Everyone is dwelling on the US perspective, the Ukraine perspective. No one is listening to Russia and all of that. And I feel like they deserve to be heard. At least you'd be able to understand how all of these events make sense to Putin. All right, and it's just for you to have a background or understanding of why Putin is acting the way that he's acting. And let me also categorically state that understanding is not justification. All right. All right, so stay with me. Now, one of the misconceptions that the West has been peddling against Putin is that Putin is an imperialist that is trying to bring the borderland states who were formerly part of the old USSR and to incorporate them into what the Soviet Union used to be like in the past. And I don't think that is quite true. As a matter of fact, I'm going to give you a background history of how that misconception came to be, all right, so that you'll understand these things better. And I'm also going to try to be as simple but explicit as possible so that even those who have no background knowledge in history can flow with me, all right? Yeah, so I'm sure you must have heard of the Cold War, right? The US defeated the Soviet Union and during the Cold War, of course, and that led to the split of the Soviet Union, one of the largest empires in history. And that split produced, you know, several independent states, what we have as independent states right now. And out of that split, we have up to 15 countries that are now independent. We have Ukraine, yeah, we have Georgia, we have Uzbekistan, we have Kazakhstan, we have Moldova, we have Armenia, we have Latvia, we have Belarus even, and a whole lot of them. And, in the midst of this split, Russia was trying to like stand to its feet, all right, and that was when Putin in 2005, when he was addressing the Russian Federation Assembly, he made a speech, and it was from that speech that the West picked a phrase, misconstrued the phrase, focused on the phrase, interpreted it to suit their agenda, and then they started recycling the phrase. And then they interpreted it to mean that Russia or Putin was trying to bring all of those border states into what used to be the old Soviet Union. Now I'm going to show you exactly that Putin speech in 2005, and I'm going to explain to you what I mean by that. Stay with me. Now, remember, it was in 2005 that Putin made that speech. That's like barely 5 years. Russia came out of, that the Cold War, and Russia was still battling with the effects of the Cold War, the split, the USSR split, and of course, it was under serious economic and social chaos. Do you understand? There was confusion everywhere. because of that. And so Putin was trying to see how he could rebuild Russia. In fact, in that speech, he seems to outline his vision for Russia for the next couple decades coming. All right. Now, the Western press did not talk about Putin talking about democracy or talking about how he was going to wipe corruption that had overtaken the Russian state. That one didn't make headline. Rather, Western press picked on the phrase from the prologue of Putin's speech, the greatest geopolitical catastrophe. The greatest geopolitical catastrophe. That was what they focused on. And then they translated it to mean that Putin was trying to bring back all of those borderland states that had broken away from the USSR. He was trying to bring them back into the old USSR. That's absurd, if you ask me. And because of that narration, that is the narration that they have been selling to us, even up to this moment as I'm talking to you. This is 2022, and the West is still peddling, circulating that narrative. In fact, the United States ambassador to the UN made reference to it when he was stating the reason why he thinks that Putin invaded Ukraine. All right. In his words, he said Putin was trying to establish Russia's hegemony within the space of the former USSR. And this is what the West has made everyone believe. And it's not true. In fact, it is also one of the reasons the West interpreted Russia's near border concept. Now, the near border concept came into play in 2001, I think. That was what Putin was trying to, describe what he called difference yet similar. Now, these countries that broke away from the old Soviet Union, right? He was like, even though that we are now different independent states, that we still share some similarities. There are similarities in our culture, similarity even in our names. Of course, you can see Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky. All right, so you can see the similarities in their culture because they had, prior to that split, been one country for several decades. So the near border concept was what Russia established to, like, okay, we are different people. We are the same people, but different states. It was more like incorporating our differences and our similarities all together. And so Putin's near abroad concept was basically to, recognize our similarities while knowing that we are different. Now, when the West heard that phrase, they again interpreted it to mean that Putin was trying to spread his sphere of influence over these borderland states. How ridiculous. And I think that they keep doing that intentionally. They do that very intentionally. It is because it helps them paint this picture that they are painting of Putin and of Russia. It gives, I don't know, I can't explain it. Everything Russia does or does not do right now, they will find a way to fix it into their description of imperialism, Russia's imperialist tendencies, or the fact that they are undermining borderland state sovereignties and stuff like that. And right, do you know why they keep rubbing this, ideology of Putin is an imperialist on all of us? Well, I think it could be traced to the era of the Soviet Union. I feel like they are still judging Russia from the past. That is why they will confidently come up and tell us that Putin is trying to incorporate this borderland states into what the old Soviet Union used to be. Now, it is like a man who came out from a broken home. His father abused the mom, verbally, physically, sexually, and all of that. And then he grows up and it's time for him to get married. And then he meets a woman that he wants to marry. And naturally, people will be concerned for the woman. You hear things like, hey, this man came out from a broken home. Oh, are you sure that he will not beat you? Are you sure that he will not abuse you? You need to be careful of this man. Stuff like that. All right? And in the course of the marriage, let's say they have stayed 10, 15, 20 years and there was no issue. But you see, the very first time or the very first day that this man would attempt to, as much as just pinch the woman on the face, his enemies will carry it. We told you. We told you this man is an abuser. He came from an abusive home. An apple cannot fall far from the tree. We told you. You see, nobody would want to know what necessitated the man's action. Nobody would want to know if it was how far the woman must have pushed him to take such actions. Nobody cares. There is not enough reason anymore to justify the man hitting the woman. In fact, the 10, 20, 50 years of peace that they have lived together will no longer count. For the singular reason that he has hit her once. That's exactly what is playing out in the Russia-Ukraine crisis. The West keeps rubbing this imperialist tendency on Putin because of where he is coming from, because of where Russia is coming from. The Soviet Union, that was of course known as the evil empire. The Soviet Union, that was known as an imperialist state. Do you understand? So despite the fact that, the Soviet Union has been dissolved and these states have broken away and gained independence, about 15 states here, and Russia is now on their own. They are still kind of finding a way to infuse everything that Russia does, or every action that Putin takes or does not take. They would find a way to infuse it into that narration that Putin is an imperialist who is trying to bring all of the states under the former old Soviet Union status. And as much as that sounds like the truth, it's not the case. You know why? Because it is very clear that every time Putin made war, it was always for one thing: territorial integrity, territorial security, territorial protection. It is geopolitics that, effectively explains the situation. In fact, Geopolitics 101 states that no big country appreciates military activities within its borders, especially from another big country. Do you understand? The US, right now, America, does not appreciate any military action from any big nation within the Western Hemisphere, not to even mention her borders. If you try it, guy, you go collect. They will come for you with everything that they've got. Why? Geopolitics, territorial protection. All right. Now, this is United States that I am very sure they perfectly understand what is at stake for Russia by coercing Ukraine or Georgia to join NATO, or by bringing NATO expansion eastward. It's like leaving the whole of West, and then you're coming close to Putin's territory. And it's not like you're coming in peace. It's like when your enemy surrounds you with weapons, even though he does not use that weapon yet, you're definitely going to live in fear because you don't know if you're going to wake up the next morning to behold someone putting a gun to your neck, or you don't know what you're going to say that will probably upset him one of those days, and then he could just decide to, you know. So imagine NATO has successfully taken over the Baltic region. Imagine NATO implanting nuclear weapons in Georgia, in Ukraine, Latvia, the Baltic here, and all of those places, Kazakhstan. Russia go feel breathe. If not you, how you go do? Eh? No, how will you do? So what Russia is fighting for is it does not go beyond territorial protection. Because whether we like it or yes, whether we admit it or yes, Putin is Lord of the East. There is no dispute in that. And US or NATO or the West or whatever they are called advancing towards East, it's more like challenging Putin indirectly. And we cannot have two captains in a boat. It's either the US or it is Russia. And Russia is saying, stay away from my territory. Take your expansion elsewhere. But leave my territory alone. I do not want to have you installing any nuclear weapons or whatever around my domain. Putin's demand was quite simple. Pretty simple. Why couldn't NATO just adhere to it? If you ask me, this war could have been prevented if NATO had just respected themselves and Putin and then, stay away. Do you get? So what Russia is fighting for, it is not that he's trying to spread his sphere of influence over Ukraine or this or that or that. He's the imperialist or whatever ideologies and theories they are explaining his actions with. He has always been after one thing: territory. Keep off. Whatever threatens my territory, I will respond with threat. Apparently, Putin is not a preacher of love. So if anyone threatens his territory, he unleashes mayhem on you. Do you understand? Meshmeyer, the political analyst I talked about, he made a statement that I actually quite agree with 100%. When he was describing Putin, he said, Putin is not an irrational actor. Putin is a first-class political strategist that must be feared and respected by anyone who seeks to challenge him on foreign policy formulation. And I think that is correct. If you understand geopolitics well, you would definitely have no problems with understanding why Putin is doing what Putin is doing to safeguard his territory, including the use of force. In fact, US Army commander in the EU then during the Syrian crisis, and after Russia had launched that missile, he was like, in a comment by the press, he said, that was a surprise to me. Not just the capabilities, but the fact that I didn't know that it was even there in the first place. You know, you just be like, Russia shocked them. So we cannot deny the fact that Putin has done well for Russia over time. You might not like him as a person, you might not like what is going on in Ukraine currently, but you cannot deny the fact that Putin is worthy of respect. You know, credit must be given to whom credit is due. All right, I'm not surprised. The former German chief navy, some time ago, he made a comment. He said Putin deserved respect. You know, over the Putin-Ukraine issue, he said Putin deserved respect. And guess what? The West, that didn't sit very well with the West, and they got rid of him. He resigned. They made him resign. He lost his job for saying that. But that is the absolute truth. Putin deserves respect. Until the West begin to accord him the respect that he deserves, maybe then we can have peace. But if not, if they continue their NATO expansion eastward, I can almost guarantee you that this is not the last invasion that we'll witness by Russia. Because there is no Russian leader that will sit idly and watch the West install a pro-Western government in Ukraine, while still recruit them into the organization NATO. Not one Russian leader will let that happen, except, of course, he's a dumbass. Do you understand? So this has nothing to do with, personal aggrandizement for Putin as the West is painting it. It is nothing personal for Putin. It is just natural, given the location of the Russian state. Do you understand? So it is possible for you to take away Ukraine from Russia, but you cannot take away Russia from Ukraine. You can't take away Russia from Ukraine. And my issue is not even with the West. I'm not really that much concerned about the West. My issue is with Africans who are actually criticizing Putin. I don't know. One of my friends told me, hey, Putin is an imperialist. In Russia, Russian people are complaining. Russian people are saying this. Putin does not allow freedom of speech. He does not allow freedom of association. How many freedom of speech do you have in Nigeria? How many freedom do you have to exercise your rights in Nigeria? What happened in October 2020 when the youth took to the street to protest against police brutality? What happened? You are criticizing an imperialist, a dictator in the supposed Russia. What have you done about the dictator in Asurok? You are crying wolf and asking them to punish Putin for his war crimes in Ukraine. What about the war crimes and atrocities committed in your country, Nigeria? The unknown gunmen that keep ravaging your country. You're not interested in that. You are more concerned about a dictator somewhere far away in Russia. Are you even normal? You're criticizing someone I feel we should be learning from. Because whether you admit it or not, Putin is an incredible politician. He's a smart one. He's a real smart one. You don't have to admit it. And let me tell you something. These Russians that are criticizing him now, that are crying wolf, they were the same people. When Putin was elected into governance, they were like, oh, Putin is the best thing that has happened to us. The former president, who was more or less a drunk and constituting nuisance to the Russian state, they were like, oh, this is the best choice. Putin is the best decision that this man has ever made for the Russian state. Suddenly they are going, crucify him. Why? Because death is involved. People are dying in Ukraine because morality is overshadowing their sense of reasoning. Do you understand? And for those of you, I get a lot of people say, hey, Ukraine is an independent state, and then it should be allowed the right of association, it should be allowed the right of sovereignty, it should be allowed the right of self-determination, and stuff like that. But hello, in international politics, geographic location is more important than any abstract self-determination or sovereignty or whatever you call it. It's the truth. It's the truth. Ukraine might be independent. Theoretically, yeah, it is. But is it truly independent? And guys, that brings us to the end of this video. I hope that you had fun watching as much as I did. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please, I implore you to please subscribe to this channel. And subscription is free. In case you're wondering, it doesn't have to cost you a dime. Just hit the subscription button right there and then click the notification button as well, so you don't get left out on subsequent videos that will be coming. All right. please like this video, share this video if you do not mind, and leave me your comments under the comment section. I'd love to read from you. If you have different opinion of this issue, please, you are welcome to share with us. I'd love to read from you. I'd love to learn from you. All right, don't just watch this video and pass like that, please. Tell me what you think under the comment section. All right, let's get to know ourselves better as well. Okay, and that's it for today. I'll see you when I see you. And until then, it is still your girl Udoka Adnukuru, aka Udala Talks. I hope to see you on my next video. Bye for now.